Hello, welcome back to Get Up and Game, where we usually like to start every day off right with a game on the table, but today we're doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing my hero rankings for Marvel Champions. I realized I haven't done this yet, and I haven't had time to make any playthrough videos recently because my job schedule has gone absolutely crazy. And this shouldn't take too long, so I've got time to make one of these at least. So we're going to be taking a look at how much I like every hero in Marvel Champions. Now, I want to be clear about a few things. These are purely my opinions. I'm not trying to objectively rank them by who's best and who's worst based on what criteria. I don't even know what that would be. This is not a power ranking, who's strongest and who's weakest. This is just when I sit down to the table to play Marvel Champions, which frankly doesn't happen nearly as often as I would like it to, and that's probably true for you as well. How likely is it that I'm going to be playing this particular hero? And another thing with this game is I absolutely love building decks for it. So another criteria is sort of how often am I inspired to build a deck for this hero? So let's take a look at my tiers here. We have the top tier. There can be only 4. I decided my top tier can only have 4 heroes. And so this is where the best of the best will go, the ones I love the very, very most. Then we have tier 2 here, just missed the top, but I do really love you. Heroes that, even though if they're not quite my top 4 favorites, I still like so much and want to play pretty frequently. And then we have tier 3, maybe if I quit my job, are the heroes that I like, but I don't just seem to get them to the table very often. I just don't have enough time. Maybe if I played the game, every day, or if I just had more free time, I would probably get around to playing these heroes because I do really like them, but it doesn't happen very often. We have tier 4, please don't unsubscribe. Looking ahead of these, I think there's going to be some heroes that end up here that really aren't my favorites, but they might be some of your favorites. And that's just how it goes sometimes. So these are heroes I like fine, but I probably really don't ever play them, or it just doesn't happen very often. We have tier 5, not for me, but if you like them, that's cool. These are the heroes that I just really probably never play and almost never will again. And then we have the one that got away, which is a special case we'll get to when we get to them. So let's get started. Looks like they have these organized pretty much in release order, other than Raccoon's hanging out with the core set for some reason, but that's fine. We'll just do them in the order that they're presented here, starting with SheHulk. I do quite enjoy SheHulk. I know she's probably not a lot of people's favorites, and she's not one of my favorites necessarily. I am going to put her up in maybe if I quit my job. I do enjoy playing her, and I actually got her out somewhat recently. I think her card, Split Personality, is one of the coolest cards in the game that lets you change form and draw up to your hand size. That's really cool. Any heroes that have cards that let you change form, outside of your normal once per turn flip, I always love that. You'll definitely be hearing more about that much later. I just think that's awesome. Her rush style is less interesting to me. I like to play a game that plays out a little bit more than her just really trying to beat down. But I still don't mind it once in a while, and I've had fun playing her somewhat recently. So we're going to put her in tier 3. I don't have a lot to say about her. Maybe if I quit my job, I'd play her more. Going on to Iron Man. Now, Iron Man is interesting because I pretty much never play Iron Man. And so he actually ends up here. And I know that's probably really low to a lot of people, but for whatever reason, I'm just rarely inspired to get Iron Man out. All right, sorry about that, folks. I had to stop recording all of a sudden. My baby boy decided to get up 2 hours earlier than I was expecting him to, so I wasn't able to get this done and all in one shot like I would have liked. And so I want to pick back up with Iron Man. I think I was just saying that I don't play him very often, and I'm surprised I don't like him more because I very much like the upgrade style of getting just a lot of cards out on the table and getting to activate a lot of stuff on your turn. But I don't know if it's just because I pretty much only play solo and he's a pretty slow starter. I know you can play him solo. You can certainly build good solo decks with Iron Man, but I don't know. He just doesn't appeal to me too much. So that is where Iron Man ends up. Not for me, but if you like him, that's cool. I don't think he's bad. I just probably don't really plan on playing him much at all. Now, next up comes Black Panther, and well, I sure do hate to be negative to start this list off, but I'm gonna slot him right here next to Iron Man. Still not for me, but if you like him, that's cool. I don't know what it is. I have played him recently, so I guess he doesn't quite fit the criteria of never getting him out, but it was just because I wanted to sort of remind myself what I thought of him, and I honestly kind of find him kind of boring. Again, in solo play, the whole sequencing puzzle of activating all his upgrades with Wakanda Forever seems like it should be really interesting, but most of the time I find when I play him solo, at least, there aren't really a lot of different targets for his Black Panther upgrades. I suspect that in a multiplayer game, he would be a lot more interesting because you'd have a lot of different targets. You'd really want to pick and choose what order to do the upgrades in, but in solo, he just doesn't really do a lot for me. Now, Black Panther does end up kind of low, so I'm really sad to see we're starting off with 3 mid to low tier heroes. Hopefully they will get better soon. And they will, because I quite like Hawkeye. Now, he doesn't make it all the way to the top, but I definitely like him more than SheHulk. So I'm going to put him right here. Maybe if I quit my job, I would play Hawkeye a lot more. I find him really, really fun. I actually like, sometimes I think he gets criticized because his kit is so self-contained. It's hard to build decks with him that really maximize or utilize his kit like in interesting ways. He's just doing his own thing. And I actually like that. I think it's neat that he is very self-sustaining. You get out both of his expert marksmans and his quiver, and irrespective of what's in your hand, you're going to be able to shoot an arrow off at least once a turn. You know, hopefully you find one with a quiver. I think that's really cool and fun. So you're very, very reliable in that way. He's obviously squishy and very hard to keep alive, and that's, you know, you build the rest of the deck to compensate for that. But I think he's fun. I love Stun and Confused. You're definitely going to see that play out here on this list. That heroes with built-in Stun and Confused rank pretty high with me because, again, I play solo. That's very powerful. It makes me feel strong to use those. Some people think those effects are cheesy these days. I don't. I think it's great. I love stunning and confusing the villain, and Hawkeye is really good at that. And I love that you can build pretty much any kind of deck that you want with him, and he's going to play it pretty well because he's doing his own thing, and then you just bolt on whatever you feel like doing with him. Plus, I'm a big fan of the character. I loved the Disney Plus show. I really love him in the movies, and I'm much more of a movie TV fan of Marvel these days than I am the comics. So yeah, Hawkeye's really cool. I like him quite a bit, and I would play him more if I could. Now, even though he's strangely out of order here, we're going to move Rocket Raccoon so close to the top. Just missed the top, but I do really love him. I think Rocket is so much fun. I usually mostly play him in Justice, and I think that's a great way to play him. He's very strong there. He's so good at thwarting, and then his kit is really filled with a lot of damage, so you don't need to add, you know, I think a lot of people like to play him in red because it fits the character, and it does, but he doesn't need the extra red. He's so good in everything else that, or he has so much damage in his own kit that he doesn't really need the help. And just drawing all those extra cards, I love that there's no limit on Murdered You. Every time you kill an enemy with excess damage, you're going to get to draw a card. Obviously, villains with a lot of minions like Green Goblin or Ultron are very, very fun to play with Rocket. I don't know if you can have more fun in this game than playing against Ultron with Rocket Raccoon. It's such a blast to draw so many extra cards. His cards are cool, the theme's great. I'm a big, big fan of Rocket, and I definitely do like to play him pretty occasionally. I get him out whenever I get a chance. Next up is Captain Marvel, and I think, yeah, she's gonna kind of go in this sort of middle-ish tier. At the top of it, though, I do like Captain Marvel quite a bit. I'm surprised I don't like her more because she is really fun to play. Her cards are so strong, and she draws a lot of cards. I really love drawing cards. It is a card game. Drawing cards is good, and it's just so effortless for her to draw extra cards. It's really fun. She's very strong and powerful. I'm really surprised that people that I see on the internet when they talk about Doctor Strange, one of the things they really don't seem to like about him is that he's just too strong. That he wins, he makes it so easy to win. And I really don't understand why Captain Marvel doesn't get that same criticism. She is so strong. I have never come close to losing with her, I don't think. She is incredibly powerful. You can put anything in her deck and she can just do it effortlessly. She has the resources to pay for the expensive cards. She's going to draw all the extra cards to get you what you need quickly. She's so powerful, which is fun. So I don't mind that. Like, it doesn't really hold her back on my list. I don't know why she doesn't get the same flack for being strong that Doctor Strange does. But yeah, but I like her pretty well. Let's put her here in tier 3. Maybe if I quit my job, I would play her more. Spider-Man. He I think he's gonna be, oh nope, way a little too high. I think he's going to be the first candidate in our please don't unsubscribe tier. I imagine he's probably some people's favorite heroes, and he's just not one I get out very often. I love the character. He's probably my favorite Marvel characters, love the movies, love everything about Spider-Man. And I think he's good. He's strong, he's fun to play, but I'm never inspired to build new decks with him. I'm never inspired to get him out and play. I did play him quite a bit when the core set was new, so maybe he was pretty much my go-to to learn the game, and I stuck with him for quite a bit. So maybe that's all it is. So if he's your favorite hero, please don't unsubscribe. But he's just not someone I'm likely to play anytime soon. Now, there's supposed to be some kind of new thing coming for him where he will get access to the Web Warrior keyword. I don't know exactly, or the trait rather, what that's going to look like, but I think this version of Spider-Man would be really strong with the Web Warrior trait, so I probably would go back and try him again for sure if I was able to use those cards with him. It'd be really fun to put the new Otto Octavius Spider-Man that's coming out soon with him, just for the theme of being Superior Spider-Man. Would be great, and some of the other cards I think would work really well with him, so maybe I'll play them soon. But for me, he's just kind of a tier 4 kind of hero. Please don't unsubscribe. Okay, we got to get to some ones I really like soon, but unfortunately we're not there yet, and this might be one of the more shocking ones. It was to me when I was really thinking about it, but we're gonna put Captain America right beside Spider-Man in the tier 4 please don't unsubscribe tier. I think he's awesome. He's so strong. He's so strong. He's kind of like Captain Marvel in that he just can do anything and he does it well. But I just think he's kind of boring to play. I don't know. I don't know if it's he's too good. He's so straightforward, I think, is part of it. Like his abilities they're just really, I don't know, I can't think of a better word for it, just straightforward. There's no like rough edges to him, and I kind of like that. Heroes with a little bit of kind of a weird timing, or things that you really have to sort of think a little bit out of the box to play them well. And Captain America, he is just right down the line, which is what you want at Captain America. He's very well designed, but again, like I don't really ever get inspired to build new decks with him, and every time I play with him, like I win, but I'm a little bit bored. So he can do this all day, but I probably won't do this again for a while, if ever. Please don't unsubscribe. Ms. Marvel, on the other hand, here we going straight to almost the top. Oh, she is borderline. There can be only 4, but she does just miss the top, but I do really love her. Ms. Marvel is so much fun. This is sort of the opposite of Captain America to me. This is a hero that you really have to think through the sequencing puzzle of the best way to use her. She's really fun to build decks for. You know, her ability to recycle events just gives so many possibilities of different things you can do. Shrink and Embiggen really play with the math and make some cards so ridiculously overpowered. The fact that she can turn the tide into 8 damage is incredible. I think that's so much fun to be able to do that with just one card out of your hand. It's just so cool. I'm a huge fan of Ms. Marvel, and she's one that just gets better every time new events come out, attack and thwart events. There's a new possibility to maybe try something new with her, and I think she's an absolute blast. She's probably going to sit right here at the top of this tier. I think she's my 5th favorite hero. I'll be surprised if anybody takes that spot. So she just missed the top, but I really do love her. Next up is Thor. And Thor, we're going to put him right behind Rocket, another one of my absolute favorites. Huge fan of the character. He's my favorite thing about the MCU, and I really do like his deck. Now, I know he was considered pretty weak when he first came out, and I think I thought so too. But his ability is so much fun. Drawing 2 extra cards every time you get engaged with the minion, once per phase. The fact that you can do it on your turn and the villain turn is really cool. And a common criticism I see is that, that's only good in minion heavy scenarios, but I am a huge proponent of using modular encounter sets to make the game the way you want it to be. So if you're playing Thor, then use a minion heavy modular and you're good to go. Like, play the game you want to play. And I always do. If I'm playing Thor, he's going to have some baddies to smash, and that's exactly how I want it to be. I think he's just so much fun to draw all those extra cards. Lightning Strike is a really fun card. Hammer Throw, everything with the hammer. I love the shenanigans you can do in Alter Ego with discarding the hammer for a resource and then pulling it back to your hand. There's some fun timing tricks there. I think he's fun to build decks for. He has a lot of options. The hand size thing can be tricky, but again, he can draw so many extra cards with the minions. I don't find it to be too much of a problem. He can get off to a slow start, for sure, and it doesn't always work out. He's not someone that's going to win every single time you play with him. But I think he plays well in pretty much all the aspects. I love heroes he's got 2, resource upgrades to go into play. That's always fantastic. The God of Thunders are very useful. And yeah, I think he's great. Thor is really, really top tier for me. One of my absolute favorites. He might supposed to be going in front of Rocket right now. I said that weird. Maybe he should be going in front of Rocket. I'm going to leave him there though. Right now I'm feeling a little bit higher on Rocket, but Thor is way up there. Big fan. And all those happy feelings were fun. But I think Black Widow, we are gonna put her one of these 2. You know what? I'll put her at the top of not for me, but if you like them, that's cool. I don't know what it is. I know some people, she is their absolute favorite hero, and I've played her a fair number of times, and I don't know, it's just not for me. And we're going to address this later because there's another hero with a similar style that I absolutely love. Spoiler, you probably already know who that is, but I don't know. I've just never had a ton of fun playing Black Widow. I think she's cool. She's well designed. It's neat that she has her own unique style. I think one thing holding her back for me is I keep bringing up the fact that I love building new decks, and they're not really bringing out new preparations for her. There's not a lot of new cards that work with her. Meditation works with her really well, and I think I did build a deck with her when Meditation came out with Vision, and there was a new green preparation that came with Valkyrie, but doesn't necessarily work particularly well with her. And so I just think it's weird she's not being supported. It seems like it could be an easy card type to make from time to time, but either way, I think she's fine. But yeah, I'm probably not really planning on playing her anytime soon, so that's why she's towards the bottom. And I want to reiterate, I don't think any of these are bad just because they're towards the bottom. I think they're very well made, and I don't think you're wrong for liking them. It's just for my personal play style, not really my favorite. Now we get to Doctor Strange, who I find to be a very polarizing hero in this game. I'm going to put him here and just miss the top, but I do really love him. Now he's probably going to be at the bottom of this tier, but I do play him fairly occasionally, so he deserves to be a little bit higher than, I don't need to quit my job to play him. I will play him every now and then. I think he's really cool. I talked about it earlier. He gets a lot of hate for being so strong, and I know one of the other criticisms is that you really are just playing the invocation deck, and I don't have an argument against that. That is definitely the right way to play Doctor Strange, and you are kind of playing just those 5 cards over and over again, but I just think they're so cool. You're drawing 3 extra cards with Winds of Watum, putting out the 3 tough statuses, the Stun, the Confuse. I even really like the one where you can change one status into another, because sometimes you can do some really funky stuff where you just have to turn one of your own toughs into a Confuse or something just to get that card off the top of your invocation deck. I think it's funny. Magic's unpredictable, it's chaotic, and sometimes you have to do kooky things. I think Doctor Strange is really, really fun to play. He plays well pretty much in every aspect, because again, all you really care about is the invocations. But I'm a big fan. I don't mind that he's strong. I guess I kind of said that before. Like, I don't mind winning. I think winning is fun. I think feeling powerful is fun. So I don't mind that we have a character like Doctor Strange, who probably should be one of the strongest characters in the game. I don't mind that he is that way. I think that's fine, and so I really like him. So that's where he goes. Hulk does not go to the bottom tier. I actually quite enjoy playing Hulk from time to time. So I'm going to put him in the maybe if I quit my job tier. I do like building decks for him. I think he's interesting. I have a video where I played him in Justice on my channel, and I tried to keep him in Bruce Banner form because I really wish that was how he was designed, more of a split design with being in Bruce Banner form, because when you read the Hulk in the comics, like, Bruce Banner is a very active alter ego, and there are times where he's Bruce for many, many, many months in the comics without ever even turning into Hulk, and I would have loved to have seen that be part of his design where Bruce mattered more, but, you know, obviously they wanted to build him just to smash. And that's fine, but I'm not that big into the Rush style. That's why he's not higher. But I do think he's interesting, and his limitations make him fun to try to make him work. I'm not looking for a huge challenge because I don't get to play the game very often, so I'm not going to bang my head against Hulk all the time trying to get him to work. But when I do get him out and play with him, there's not much more fun in the game than just getting off a Hulk smash and hitting for 13 damage or more. Is just a really good time. Just destroying a villain in one shot can be a good time. So I'm going to leave him there. You know what? I'm going to put him ahead of She-Hulk. I do like him a little better. I'm more likely to play him than I am her. So that is where the Hulk ends up. I think he's okay. I wish he were designed better. I'm not going to lie and say I think he's perfect. I know that there were some issues with his development and things got changed sort of at the last second. And that's unfortunate. And we'll always have, this Hulk that could be better. And maybe we'll get a better one in the future. But big fan of the character. And I think he's okay in the game. I don't think he's all that bad. SpiderWoman, on the other hand, goes really, really, really high. Probably about right here. If I could get these. There you go. Yeah, SpiderWoman's awesome. Her kit is one of the, I think, strongest hero kits in the game. Pheromones, being able to stun and confuse the villain for 2 resources, and she has 2 of them. That has got to be the best card in the game, or really one of the best, at least for solo play. It is so super strong. But all of her cards are good. I guess Venom Blast is pretty vanilla, but, conspicuous, being able to split up the threat removal. I like that she has resource generators. She's got a decent alter ego support. She doesn't have a strong alter ego ability. I guess that's one thing holding her back, but it is really fun to build her in such a way that you try to play as many different aspect cards in a turn as possible. Leads you to play some pretty low cost curve decks, which is something I really enjoy doing, trying to really utilize a lot of 0 and 1 cost cards to get the most out of your turn. I think that's fun. She's obviously very interesting to build decks for with the double aspect of her character. So I am a big fan, and I really love Captain Marvel as her signature ally. She's so powerful. I know she's sort of anti-synergistic with her ability. You know, you're going to pay a 4-cost ally that doesn't have an aspect, so it doesn't buffer, but it's just for 1 turn, and then you're getting to draw an extra card for however many turns you can keep Captain Marvel alive. I think she's great. So I'm a big fan of SpiderWoman. I definitely play her fairly often, and she's another character that just keeps getting better as more, you know, we get new aspect cards every time we get new heroes, and you know, it's always fun to see what new things you can do with SpiderWoman. She got a big boost with the shield stuff, was a lot of fun. You know, she can really utilize the justice and the leadership side of that new trait, newly enhanced trait. So yeah, I like SpiderWoman. So she goes way high, and not too far behind is going to be AntMan. I'm actually going to put him ahead of SpiderWoman. Huge fan, just such a blast. I know I keep listing all the things I love about heroes. I love building decks. I love heroes that draw cards, have resources, but one of my absolute favorite things is changing forms. Going back down to alter ego to make use of your abilities to draw extra cards. I always think that's really interesting. Definitely, it seemed like an early strategy of this game was just whatever you can do to stay in hero form all the time. And I think it's fun to flip back and forth. I think it's a crucial element of this game. It's one of the things that sets it apart from all the other superhero games, is that, you know, the alter ego, your regular life matters, because that's one of the hallmarks of Marvel Comics, is these people's personal lives really affect their superhero lives and vice versa. And then along comes Ant-Man and takes it a step further, and now you have another form to change into. And he's just so easy to play. He plays so smoothly. You flip, you get to do a thing, you deal damage, remove a threat. I love his cards. Resize is really fun to be able to change forms multiple times in a turn. Giant Stomp just feels super strong. You get Giant Strength, both of those out, and when you flip into Giant form, he's attacking for 5, and it's really easy to abuse that to get multiple uses out of it. He is a really fun hero. Plays well in pretty much all the aspects. I'm a big fan of Ant-Man. But even more than Ant-Man, this might surprise some people, Wasp is the first of our Elite 4. She is one of my absolute favorite heroes. I've played her so many times, and it really comes down to her alter ego ability, GIRL. I love that ability to shuffle 2 cards with the mental trait, or mental resource rather, back into your deck. I just think that is so much fun, and really leads to some interesting deck building opportunities. You know, just every time new cards with mental trait come out, like when Meditation came out, that felt like a huge boon for Wasp. And there's this some crazy new aggression card. I haven't looked at it too closely because I'm trying not to look at the spoilers, but I know there's some red card that wants you to pay for everything with mental cards, and I think that's going to be fun with Wasp. I'm always excited to build new decks. I love her in all the aspects, and I like how different she is from Ant-Man, and I think that's one of the things. I think Wasp is one of the lesser loved heroes in this game, just based on how I've seen people talk anyway, because she's so different from Ant-Man. Ant-Man is so much fun to flip back and forth, and you always get to remove a threat or do a damage. You're always doing something cool. And she doesn't get any benefits from flipping, but her whole nature is just very different. And so her difference is really in the deck building. You know, you either build for giant size Wasp, or less likely you could build for tiny size, but there are ways to do that too. So hers is, you more than focus on one form, and then always GIRL and the alter ego is the glue that holds everything together. It's awesome. Like, even if the only thing you ever shuffle back into your deck is Genius and Nick Fury, that's great. If you can keep playing Genius and Nick Fury throughout the course of a game over and over, you're probably going to win, and it's going to be a lot of fun doing it. Maria Hill, Meditation, Multiple Man is one of my absolute favorite targets for that ability. She's great in protection using Multiple Man. So, big fan. Wasp, straight to the top, and pretty near the top, I think. Next up is Quicksilver, and I'm glad we get to just keep this high going. We're going to stay right around the second tier. I think he is a little bit lower, but I'm still love Quicksilver. Big. I hate that I keep using the same terminology, but big fan. He's just a lot of fun. Readying over and over. It's real simple. You know, and I could see some people maybe not liking him because that's really sort of basic. You know, you build Quicksilver by buffing his stats and then readying over and over. And that's kind of just what you always do with Quicksilver. There's not a lot of nuance to him, but I think that's fun. It's fun to turn the card sideways and stand him back up and turn him sideways again. So I don't have a lot to say. His kit is really cool. Friction Resistance is one of the best cards in the entire game. The ability to keep readying that resource card. Yeah, Quicksilver is really a very fun hero, and one that I do get out and play fairly occasionally, and I'm always excited to do so. And any cards that come out that sort of temporarily buff your defense, or buff your stats rather, that's just an exciting time to go Quicksilver. I was excited to take him through the Mad Titan Shadow campaign just to get him the Norn Stones with Hela, and I was excited to play him next to Adam Warlock just to get that boost by Adam Warlock discarding a leadership card to give him +1 till the end of the round. Like, anytime you can do anything like that, I always get Quicksilver back out and see what it looks like, because it's just fun. So he's definitely near the top for me in the upper half. Big fan. And his sister is even higher. Scarlet Witch is the next of the Elite Four. There can be only 4. Scarlet Witch is one of my top heroes. She has been from the day I played her first, and that has never stopped. I am a huge fan of Scarlet Witch, largely because I love the random nature of Hexbolt. Hexbolt is my favorite card in this entire game. I think it's an absolute blast to flip those 3 cards and just see what happens. And you have a little bit of control over that with her ability and also with her crest. You can sort of manipulate it, and that's fun too. But it's just fun to see, what happens. It's all going to be good. You might get some stuns, confuses, you might remove some threat, you might deal some damage, you might draw cards. Those are all fun options, and I love the nature. I love that she has 4 of them in her kit, so you get to play it a lot. I played Protection with her in a video that I made, and I got to cast I'm so excited, 10 Hex Bolts, and that was just, I had a very good time doing that. And so yeah, Scarlet Witch, I really like building decks for. She is somewhat limited in her deck building because you're pretty much always going to use Sorcerer Supreme. You're pretty much always going to use the Spiritual Meditations. So, half of her deck is pretty much already built for you. And some people don't like how strong the Mystics are. I think I'm already clearly on record at this point that I don't care if a character is strong or even overpowered. I think it's fun to feel strong. And, some of the villains are very, very difficult. And you just play those heroes against those villains actually stand a chance. So I think that's a really good time. So yeah, huge fan of Scarlet Witch. Now Groot, on the other hand, he's I think he kind of goes towards the bottom for me, and I really just haven't played him much, so maybe that's part of it. But I wasn't a fan of him when he first came out. I tried messing around with him a decent amount, but I definitely gravitated more towards Rocket. So Groot didn't get a lot of the love that maybe he deserves. But his design's kind of wonky a little bit, where he wants to build up counters, but he also wants to spend them. And I think you're really meant to just sort of choose one path there, kind of go one direction or the other. I don't know what it is. I don't actually have a lot to say about Groot. He's not somebody I'm really likely to play anytime soon. Maybe Groot he's sort of one of my least favorites. So he goes, not for me, but if you like him, that's cool. I'm glad. Now, Star-Lord. See, what you're going to find is I really like a lot of heroes. I try to be very much more positive than a negative or critical. Not that being critical is bad, but I really love a lot of the heroes in this game, and Star-Lord is way up there. I'm just trying to decide do I love him more than Ant-Man? I think I do. I think he goes right there. Not quite Ms. Marvel level, but close. Star-Lord, he's just fun. The whole what could go wrong, drawing the extra encounter cards. I play him very badly. I tend to lose a lot with Star-Lord because I just can't help myself. He really tempts you into doing things you shouldn't do. And that's what he's there to do. Like, that's the point of him. But you can build some really strong decks with him because he has that resource acceleration. It makes it just easy to play the expensive cards, and it's fun. You get to play powerful cards with him. You can't always play with every hero. So I really like that aspect of him. You just build a deck with a crazy cost curve, and it's probably going to work out. And if you play him wisely, like if you don't necessarily use his abilities all the time, he can be incredibly strong. And I know he's probably the best rush hero in the game, which is not my personal playstyle. I'm not looking to win a campaign in 7 turns or anything with Star-Lord. I know you can pretty much do that, but I actually, that's probably part of why I lose with him a lot, is because I have the build out style. I always want to build out, and Star-Lord, he's got great cards to build out with. If you get both element guns, you get Leader of the Guardians. He's really strong cards to get on the board. But the longer you keep him around, the more likely you are to lose because of all the extra encounter cards that you're taking. So I probably don't play Star-Lord correctly, but I always have a good time when I do. Star-Lord, way up there. Big fan. Now, his friend Gamora, special friend, she's gonna go right here. Now, please don't unsubscribe. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy a lot, except for 2 of them. And we've now seen them, Groot, not for me, and Gamora, she is so good. I think she is really neat. She's very easy to play well. And she's got some interesting deck building options with the 6 off aspect cards, though maybe not, because I think you usually just sort of pick the same ones, depending on which aspect you're sort of maining with her, but then whatever's left is kind of obvious which 6 to take. So I think she's kind of boring. She's just so good at everything. She's very similar to Captain America to me, that she's just so perfectly balanced, as all things should be, that I don't have a lot of fun playing her. I think she's really good, really well designed. She definitely feels like Gamora should feel, and maybe I should like her more based on the things I like from heroes, but I don't know what it is. I'm just never feel like getting her out. But I think she's probably pretty high on a lot of people's lists, so sort of why she ends up where she ends up. Please don't unsubscribe if you love Gamora. Now, the opposite end of that spectrum is Drax, and if you've watched my videos, and if you have, thank you very much, but in my very first video I declared that Drax is my favorite hero, and that continues to be true. I love Drax so much. I play him constantly. I would play all of these heroes so much more if I just didn't keep playing Drax over and over and over. And it's weird because he sort of breaks a lot of my rules. He's not that interesting to build decks for. I've actually never played him in anything but protection and leadership. I've never even tried aggression or justice, just because I don't care. I have so much fun. I only played him in protection for the longest time, which I think is what most people do, until I did somewhat recently, build a leadership deck that's just all about keeping Manus alive and in play, and that actually is my favorite way to play Drax now. But there were some new green cards that came with Gwen Stacy that I've been enjoying with Drax, so I'm back on protection with him. There's just something about building up those vengeance counters and everything playing off his attack strength, I think, is just a really fun hero kit. Like his thwarting, which is terrible, but if you do get his intimidations, they could remove up to 5 threat, maybe more if you've got other ways to build his attack up. That's really strong. And Knife Leap is like the coolest card in the whole game. I love Knife Leap so much, and he just feels like a one-on-one battle with a villain. I rarely put many allies in a Drax deck just because I love the theme of him just going toe-to-toe with the villain and just trying to keep him alive long enough to win. But there is something about building up those vengeance counters that's very addictive to me, and I always have so much fun in the early game, taking the hits, getting those counters, slowly building up, and then once you get to the full attack, if you can get his knife out, if you can get the Dwee Thief Mastery out, you could actually draw a lot of cards. That 4-card hand size doesn't hold him back too much, just because he can draw a ton of extra cards if you build him up to ready a lot and stuff like that, because he gets to attack or draw cards just for attacking when he gets his mastery out. He's just a blast. Like, he can do so much damage so fast, and he's just awesome. I could sit here and talk about Drax for another 10 minutes. I won't, but I could, because I'm such a huge fan. He's my absolute favorite. But yeah, Drax, number 1. Venom, actually, I lied about Ms. Marvel, because Venom goes right here. He was in my top 4 until somewhat recently, and he got bumped out just a little bit, so I'm going to give him the number 5 spot. And yeah, that's how that's going to end up, because he's just so awesome. I love Venom. He feels so strong. He's got the stun and confuse built in. Getting out his guns just makes you feel really, really powerful. Multi-gun, I think, has got to be one of the best cards in the game. It's so versatile, it's so strong, it's so useful. And the fact that you've got a pretty good shot of starting with it every game is just fantastic. His built-in resource generation it's so comforting. It's like you feel safe knowing that you're always going to have the money to pay for the cards, and the fact that it's wild creates opportunities for things like Dropkick, for things like the Justice cards that remove threat, to get those kickers by paying with a specific resource. He's just fantastic, and his alter ego is really strong. It's fun to flip down and use Project Rebirth to use that to either draw a card or heal, and just one of my absolute favorites. Big ups, big thumbs up to Venom. Adam Warlock is very interesting, and I really don't know where to put him. So I think I'm going to put him at the top of the 3rd tier, but it's tricky for me, and I'll tell you why. It's all because of that darn Wild Tutor Adam Warlock deck that Brian V built. You've probably seen it, and if you haven't, you should look into it. There is a deck build for Adam Warlock that is just perfect. It's flawless. It is the way to play Adam Warlock. Maybe when new cards come out eventually, that deck will shift and modify, but every time I play it, it just works so beautifully. It maximizes his abilities, his strengths, it eliminates his weaknesses. It's like the way to play Adam Warlock. And so what that has done is it has completely removed any interest I have in building Adam Warlock decks, which is unfortunate because he probably has the most interesting deck building in the whole game. You can literally use all the aspects, but you're limited to one of each, and they have to balance perfectly. And that's a fascinating deck building challenge that I really enjoyed when I first got him. Then I played Wild Tutor, and I was just like, well, that's it. This is the only way I'm ever going to play Adam Warlock again. I love it. It's super fun. It's obviously very strong, but it sort of makes Adam Warlock done. You know what I mean? Like, when I want to play Wild Tutor, you know, I get him out, but I don't really ever want to build Adam Warlock decks. So I guess just speaking of him as a hero, that was obviously a lot about one thing, but I think Mystic Senses is one of the most fun. The whole loop he gets with his senses and his Battle Mage ability is such a fun, cool way to play a character that you get to discard a card for one benefit and then potentially draw 2 more cards back every round. And then if you have his cape, you also get to stand him up. Not that his stats are great, but still a couple uses of even low stats can be very helpful in the right spot. So he presents some interesting timing puzzles, which is fun. Got really cool cards. Soul World is just, you feel immensely powerful and you can heal for 10 or more in one shot. And yeah, his attack and thwart events are neat the way they work by discarding cards. He feels very, very different than all the other heroes, and I really like him. So that's where I'm going to put him. I do think the Wild Tutor deck sort of maybe knocks him down for me, and I don't mean that in any kind of negative way. It's just now I don't want to build decks for him anymore. So maybe that pushes him down some. But I do really, really like playing Wild Tutor, Adam Warlock, when I decide to. Spectrum is a little bit higher than she would have been recently. I think I'm going to put her towards the bottom. I'll put her towards the middle. I think of, if I quit my job, I would play more Spectrum. I didn't really like her very much for the longest time. I sort of avoided her because her ability to switch forms is awesome. I talked about that earlier. I really like changing forms, but there was just something about the way she worked that I just didn't click with, and I was very bad at it or something, but I always got stuck in the wrong form. Even though 14 or 15 cards are about changing forms, I always seem to not make it work right, and I got frustrated. I know this makes sense, but I kind of don't like that. Like, you play the thwart event that removes threat, and then you change to the threat removal form. It's like, well, I just removed a bunch of threat. Why do I need to be in the threat removal form? You know what I mean? And then it's like, you change to the attack one, you do a ton of damage, but then you're in your attack form. It's like, well, I just did a bunch of damage. I know that's how, it makes sense, right? She goes to the attack form to do damage, but it's like, well, if I remove the threat, I kind of want to be doing damage now. And I think that's just one thing that held her back for me. I don't know, it's probably just me. That's weird, but I played her somewhat recently. There's a video on my channel about if I thought she was fun or not. And a buddy on Discord built a deck that I tried, and I did have fun with it. I don't know. It was just a good deck. I had a good game, whatever it was. I had a good time. And that definitely moved her up in my estimation. That made me interested in trying her out more and building decks. And if I didn't have a job, I would probably get to her. The problem is you can now see why I called this tier this, is I have all these heroes up here that I just love so very much that I would rather play. And my time is very limited into how often I can play this, and building decks takes time. And now, I love making these YouTube videos, so that takes up a lot of time. So just playing has really become a bit of a challenge, and I love all these heroes. So if I had more time, she would get more play than I think she would have if I had made this list a couple months ago. Now, Nebula is very, very high for me. I think she goes right between Ms. Marvel and Star-Lord. I've called her one of my favorites before, and she is here. She's top 6. I think at one time I might have thought she was higher, but she's sort of fixed, and I know it's not that word's not going to make some people happy, but version of Black Widow for me. I just think she's so much more fun. She plays in a very similar style where she wants to get out all these preparation-esque cards. Hers are called techniques, but they're very similar. But just the way they work, I don't know if I like the fact that you're required to fire them off when you start her turn. That creates some interesting situations where you might choose not to go to hero form at a certain time because you don't want to lose her techniques yet, or what it is. But I like that she draws 2 cards when she gets to play one versus 1 when Black Widow plays hers. Yeah, I just think she's awesome. Now, I'm also a much bigger fan of Nebula in the movies than I am of Black Widow. Maybe that factors in. I don't know how much that matters, but I think she's a very cool character overall, and I really, really like the way she plays. The first time I played her deck, I had so much fun with it. She came with One Way or Another, which is one of my absolute favorite cards. I think she does play very well in Justice. And she's similar to Hawkeye in that you can sort of do whatever you want with her because her kit just sort of does everything well. But hers, actually, you can interact with, the extra bonus abilities you get. You have a technique in play, it's going to do a thing when you start your turn, but it also gives you some sort of benefit, like it might give your attacks overkill, or it might give you, retaliate, piercing, things like that. And while those are very easy to forget about, you can build your deck around those And it's more interesting than Hawkeye. My point I'm making here is that you can interact with her kit, even though it's also pretty self-contained. Wide Stance is one of my absolute favorite cards in the whole game that lets you look at the top 3 cards of the deck and rearrange them, discard one. Scrying is a lot of fun, I think, in solo play to really make the villain phase as less damaging as possible, least damaging as possible, and Wide Stance does it so well. I have a really fun blue Nebula deck that's just all about abusing the heck out of that and controlling the encounter deck, and she's pretty much the only one that can do it. So she's very unique in that way. I'm a big fan. Nebula, she's not one that's necessarily getting better over time. You know, she does what she does, and you can do with it what you will, but she definitely also benefits, I haven't mentioned this yet, and I'm surprised I haven't, just from being a Guardian. Being a Guardian means that you can play Think Fast, and Think Fast is one of my favorite cards because it allows you to go to Alter Ego very easily, and I'm a big fan of flipping down to Alter Ego and taking advantage of all the benefits that provides. And she, you know, she wants to go to Alter Ego. She wants to draw those 2 extra cards. You know, her combat ready card is Alter Ego only, and it's very strong for her. And so just playing her Injustice with Think Fast is very, very, very fun for me. I've done it quite a bit, and I am a big, big fan of Nebula. War Machine is gonna kind of go down here. You know what? I'm actually gonna put him the lowest yet. As much as I said I'm not really that interested in Groot, I've actually played a decent amount of War Machine. I kind of liked him less every single time I played. I don't know what it is. I just think he's boring. I don't know. He's just pure damage. That's all he really wants to do is just damage, damage, damage. He doesn't really do anything interesting. He just does a lot of damage, and he's great at it. And if that's your thing and you just love to be aggro and kill stuff, that's awesome. He is so good for that. I struggle with his economy. I think it's hard to play fun cards. I think you got to pack his deck full of resources. Yeah, I don't really have a lot to say. War Machine, I don't know if I was disappointed because I wasn't that excited for him in the first place. The character in the movies and comics has never really done much for me, and so yeah, he's gonna be one of my least favorite. War Machine. I don't know if I'll ever get him out again. Not a big fan. Valkyrie is the one that got away. If I really wasn't excited for War Machine, Valkyrie was the hero I was probably the most hyped for I had ever been. Reading a preview article, looking forward to somebody coming out. I think I was the most excited for Valkyrie I'd ever been. And I don't want to go into this too much. I've written more words on the internet about Valkyrie than every single one of these other heroes. I have 2 articles on Board Game Geek. I'll link them in the description if you happen to want to read them. I did a review, and I actually did a rebuild of her kit where I sort of redesigned it because I was just so excited for Valkyrie, and she's just not good. Like, there's just something about her that feels like it went wrong. And maybe I'm wrong, but I know I'm not the only one that doesn't think very highly of her. And she just looked so cool. The death blow mechanism of just killing enemies and readying and doing that over and over and over again is really fun when it works. It's so much fun. The problem is, one, it requires minions, and I'm not going to harp on that too much because, like I said with Thor, if I'm playing Valkyrie, I'm going to make sure there's plenty of minions in the deck, so that's not really that big of an issue. But Deathglow's not free, and you got to keep paying for that thing, and it really limits what you can do on your turn. She really has no economy to speak of. I'm just so shocked if she has a card that she's going to want to play every single turn, that there's not something in her deck that helps her pay for it. There's Valhalla, which will get you 1 card back a turn, but beyond that, I can't believe she doesn't have some sort of resource generator or some sort of ability that lets her draw more cards when she plays Deathglow something. She does in my version that I played quite a bit. When I rebuilt her, I have a lot of fun playing her that way, but as far as the way the character came out of that box, I was just so disappointed. I don't have any fun with her when I play her the way that she is designed. I'm very frustrated by so many elements of her, the way she works. Like I said, I've already said a lot about Valkyrie in other places on the internet, so I don't want to spend a lot of time over here. It makes me sad, honestly. I love the theme. She seems so cool. She's such a cool character. I love the Thor verse. She's really cool in the movies. She's the one that got away. She's my least favorite hero in this game. And I kind of hope that never changes. I hope there's nobody that ever comes out that I'm even more disappointed with or less happy to play. Now, Vision's going straight to the top of maybe if I quit my job. Vision is so cool. Changing from intangible to dense is such a neat mechanism. And they've done this form changing thing multiple times now by the time we got to Vision, but it's different. It definitely feels different theme wise. Like his cards really feel like you can only play this if you're intangible, you can only play this if you're dense. I just think he's awesome. Vivian is obviously the best hero specific ally in the game, and in some ways that's unfortunate because it seems like the way you build a Vision deck is just maximize Vivian, and I don't really want to do that because I want to do other interesting things with him. So that holds him back. He's not as high on my list as he could be because I'm a big fan of everything about Vision. He's just so cool that he's a robot. He's so cool that he can turn intangible. Like, why does a robot have that ability? But it's neat, and he's very strong. He's very powerful. He's very fun to play. But I don't get to him very often, and I think part of it is just the whole Vivian aspect of it. She's great, but it just feels very sort of one note, and it's like she's so strong. It'd be like trying to play Doctor Strange without the invocations. Like, why? You could, I suppose, but it's like that's obviously the way to do it, and I feel like it's even more limited with Vision. His other cards are very strong. I love Solar Beam. I love that it's so versatile, that depending on what you need, a big chunk of threat or a big chunk of damage, it's, you know, all that in one card. I love Super Dense Strike. Getting Piercing is always fantastic. So I really like him, but I don't play him that much, and I think I would play him more if Vivian weren't so darn strong. So, but yeah, Vision's very cool. And if I quit my job, he'd get to play more. And I'm sort of putting off the next one because the whole reason I named this tier Please Don't Unsubscribe is because this is where I'm going to put Ghost Spider, and I think I'm gonna put her right here. Ghost Spider is such an interesting hero for me. When Sinister Motives came out somewhat recently, all anybody wanted to talk about was Gwen. Gwen. She's so much fun. She's so awesome. She's my new favorite hero. I've heard a lot of people say that she's their new favorite hero, and if you probably think I'm an idiot right now for putting her so low, and that's fine. But I played Miles first. Miles was the one I was more excited about. I mean, they both looked great. I was very excited for both. I don't know why it always has to be a competition, to be honest. Like, I was excited for both of them. Why does it have to be one more than the other? But I played Miles first, and I had a blast with him. I thought he was super strong, very fun. And all the while I'm playing Miles, you know, and I only get to play every now and again, so it probably took me 2 weeks or so to get around to playing Ghost Spider. But all the time I just keep hearing, oh, Gwen. She's so much better than Miles. So there's very possibly, I will admit up front, an element of overhype here. Maybe she got overhyped for me. But when I did finally play her, I thought she was good. I do think she's good. But I didn't see it. I didn't see what the big deal was. I played her a lot. I played her a ton in Protection. I went through Sinister Motives. I played through all the villains a couple times with her. And then I've played in Protection. And then I played a few more games with her in Leadership. And I think one of the things that holds her back for me, there's kind of two. I actually have a lot of thoughts about Ghost Spider, but you probably already hate me for putting her this low, so I don't want to dig myself too much further into a hole here. But there are a couple things about her I don't like. She feels so pigeonholed into Protection, and I know she can play the other aspects, but she's just so good in Protection. Why would you? And I know that makes me a bit of a hypocrite because I kind of said the same thing about Drax, but I don't know. I have so much fun when I play Drax in Protection that I don't mind. But with her, I think her abilities could be very interesting in the other aspects, but when you look at the responses and interrupts in the other aspects, there's just not a lot of synergy there. Like, I played a Leadership deck on my channel, and even I'll admit the deck wasn't anything special as far as the synergies with her abilities. And then if you look at like Justice, Turn the Tide, and like Making an Entrance, they're all thwart-based events, and she's terrible at thwarting. So those don't work super well with her. I mean, I'm sure somebody has an awesome Justice deck out there. I'm not saying you can't do it, but you really want to play in Protection, so that really limits her. But she is fun. You play in Protection, so I don't want to go on that too much. But the thing that holds her back the most for me is, well, there's two things. First of all, I hate so much that her obligation removes George Stacy from your game, because I think he's one of the coolest parts of her whole kit, and I was really looking forward to that opportunity to have an expanded hand size is so interesting and so helpful. And if you get him early in the game and can keep him in play, like, it makes such a difference, and it's so much fun to have access to those extra cards, and it feels very unique. I know Ms. Marvel can kind of do it, but who's playing Bruno? Most people don't play Bruno, I don't think, because he's a little bit harder to use, but George Stacy's so easy to use. So he was just such a cool, I was looking forward to that so much. And along comes her obligation that makes it seems to be the acceptable strategy to just ignore George. You know, unless her obligation is like the first boost card in the game and you know it's gone, you just don't even bother playing him. And that makes me so sad, and I'm so frustrated that they made that her obligation. It makes sense, you know, those cards are supposed to hurt the heroes, even though rarely they do. They're really not usually that bad, but when they are really bad, it is very frustrating. So I really don't like that element of her. And honestly, I don't really like web binding or pirouette and punch very much. I don't like that there's 2 of each. I feel like that's way too many cards that just want to be played in the villain phase. You're already playing her in protection, probably. So you've already got a handful of like protection events, and then you also have these web bindings and pirouettes and punches. You can only play so many of these cards. And I always felt like my hands were clogged with cards I didn't want to play. And now I'm being like super negative. I don't hate Gwen. I got caught up in the things that frustrate me about her just because everybody loved her so much, and that just was not my experience. I thought she was very just okay. Like if you get set up with a bracelet early and George early and can keep him in play, she's awesome. And she's very strong. You know, I beat Mysterio and Expert in 3 turns on my video, and I wasn't even trying to. It just sort of happened. I get that she's powerful, but I find her more frustrating than fun to play. Like sometimes you have great games with her, and sometimes you play a ghost kick in the villain phase, and then you got nothing left to do in the hero phase because she doesn't really have good economy. Ticket to the Multiverse is also another hugely disappointing. Oh my gosh, I'm just going on and on about Gwen. I'm sorry, everybody who loves her so much, but I'm so sad that I don't. Ticket to the Multiverse is another element of her that's frustrating to me. It seems like such a cool card. Well, it is a cool card, but it's really hard for her to play because she probably played half of her hand out in the villain phase. It's neat that she can do that. But then you've got this 3-cost upgrade that or support, whatever it is, you're probably not going to be able to get on the table. But even if you do, it's such a win more card. Like, it's awesome. I've used it 1 time to actual benefit. I think I was getting close to losing a game and I popped it off, and it does so much for you, and it probably won me the game. But 9 times out of 10, you don't really need it. And it's nice, you know, so you can sort of recycle it as the double resource, but she has a similar problem to Valkyrie that I didn't mention, that it's kind of hard for her to get to alter ego because she's not great at thwarting. She's not nearly as bad at it as Valkyrie. So I'm not saying that. Phantom Flip is very strong. But, you know, the one thwart heroes, it does a little bit harder for them to get to alter ego. So recycling the ticket to the multiverse doesn't happen as often as sort of hoping it would. So there's just so many elements of her that I found disappointing and frustrating. And then I'm constantly hearing that she's everybody's new favorite hero. And I'm like, why? I don't see it. But I mean, if she's yours, please, well, 1, don't unsubscribe, but 2, don't let me ruin your fun. You know, I haven't really shared any of this on the internet. I don't know. You know, if you see me on Discord or whatever, I talk a lot. I have really kept my feelings about Ghost Spider to myself because I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. I'm not trying to do that. And if you love her, I'm so glad that you're having fun with her. I really, truly mean that. But for me, I almost want to put her lower. The more I talk about it, the more frustrated I get. Like, I had a lot of games that I was just like, I have this hand of cards I can't do anything with because 4 of them have to be played on the villain phase. All right, I'm going to stop. She's fine, but I think I've played her about as many times as I'm going to play her. Thankfully, we're going to be ending on a much, much, much higher note, as Miles Morales' Spider-Man is going straight to number 2. I am having so much fun playing Miles. I have played him a lot since Sinister Motives came out. I've pretty much only played Miles, Gwen, and Drax since Sinister Motives came out. I've just been playing those 3. I was looking forward to the green cards for Drax that came with Gwen, and I was looking forward to Miles and Gwen, and, you know, I made my feelings about Gwen very clear. But Miles, he's just awesome. He is just effortless to play. He's so strong. You know, being able to fire off Venom Blast and Spider Camouflage is pretty darn easy to do. He's got the web shooters that make the wild resources available to get those kickers. Double Life, I did a short about it, is like my favorite card. It's so awesome being able to just pop down to alter ego, get tons of benefits if you have his supports out. You can do things like downtime or crew quarters to heal. You know, you get to shuffle his best cards back in. Double Life is incredible. Arachnobatics, I think, is a hugely underrated card that I don't know why I don't hear more people talk about. The fact that, you know, it does 1 for 2, and then if they're stunned or confused, he gets 3 more damage, and then if they're, you know, the opposite status, they get the other 3 damage. I said that in a really long-winded way to say it could be 1 resource for 8 damage, but even if you don't get the 8 damage, which you won't most of the time, it's really easy to get 5. And the fact that he has a 1-cost card in his deck that can do 5 damage, and there's more than 1 copy, is incredible. I've finished off many villains with just having 2 Arachnobatics in my hand, and being able to do an easy 10 damage to win the game. Because it's easy to play 1-cost events. You know, 2-cost events are a lot harder to play more than 1 of. But I've absolutely crushed every villain in the Sinister box with him in Standard. I can't seem to beat Venom Goblin in Expert, but he's handled in Standard really well. Sinister 6, just all of them. He's just really strong with. I haven't played him against anybody else yet. I've pretty much only played Sinister Motives since it came out because it's just so good. Pretty much my 5 new favorite villains. They're just all so awesome, especially Sinister 6. That's like number 1 for me now. I have played that at least 10 times. I love that scenario. And I love Miles. He's my number 2. I don't know if he could be number 1. I'm really excited about him right now, but I don't want to jump the gun. I don't think I like him more than Drax. But he is way up there, shot straight up at the top. I've had a blast with him, had really good first impressions. The shield stuff was cool, though I quickly took it out of the deck. I wanted to try it, and it's very good, but I just didn't feel right with him, which I think a lot of people sort of agree with that. I need to play him in other aspects. I've really mostly just played him in leadership, just because I love maximizing the new Peter Parker SpiderMan ally. They work so well together. You can do an insane amount of damage and thwarting just with those two and a command team on the table. So that's kind of my go-to deck right now. I'm having a ton of fun with it. But I don't see why he wouldn't play very well in Justice. He has so much damage, so if he could just, he already manages the threat pretty well, but with Justice feels like he'd be incredibly strong there. Protection would work nicely because of all the status effects, and aggression, again, he already does so much damage. I guess he could do even more. That is my hero ranking. So I think that looks about right to me. These are my 4 favorite. I really love all these. These are good, but don't get played much. I don't really, from here on down, I don't know that I'm really going to play unless some really cool cards come out that make me want to try these heroes. I'll probably play more Gwen. Maybe she should be a little bit here. You know what? We'll do this. Because I don't want to be done. She's too new for me to be completely done with her. I might try her out some more, but I'm going to leave it with that. I thank you so much if you made it this far into the video. I hope you don't hate me if I didn't rank your favorite hero very highly. This has just been my experience and who I like to use. I want to thank you so much for joining me here. If you don't mind, if you could click that like button, that really helps me a lot. And if you want to hang around and see some more stuff, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. And I really look forward to seeing you next time we get up in game. Thanks so much, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.